Welcome everyone who has joined us today for this special occasion. We have with us here, it's how come your name on Twitter is Joe Nakamoto? This is not, which name do you prefer to go by? Because his real name
Joe
is
Nakamoto.
Joe. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
Joe Hall on Cointelegraph
Mhm.
when you read his articles. But on Twitter, Joe Nakamoto, and he is a prominent Bitcoin and Lightning supporter that you may have seen online, or you may have read his articles on Cointelegraph. But he's joining us today to have a friendly chat about the Bitcoin Lightning network. And he's got a lot of hands-on experience as well with Lightning in the real world, in some of the areas where they've been rolling it out, like in El Salvador, and I think there's a few other South American locations. But
Mhm.
yes, I'll allow Joe now give us a brief introduction of your background and history with Bitcoin.
Mhm. Sure. Thanks, mate. Lovely to chat, hang out, and thanks for having me on. I'm a bit embarrassed that you didn't introduce me in the voice that you read from my articles. As a bit of a backstory of how this sort of interaction happened is that a friend sent me one of your videos saying this guy is ripping into you and doing like a silly voice, reading your article. It was like some like fluff piece between Michael Saylor and Eric Wall, if you remember, where like Eric had called out Michael saying, "Oh, he can't use the Lightning Network," and then Saylor was like, "I will send you 3 transactions to prove it." It was like one of those like silly sort of slow news day things, but I just thought it was hilarious that you picked it up and also did this like, Michael Saylor says this, that, and the other about it. I thought we were going to do the meeting in that voice, but either way, thanks for having me on. And why do I call myself Joe Nakamoto, not Joe Hall? Well, Joe Hall is one of the most common names in the world, and it's awful for things like SEO. And of course, if you want to build a brand, as you are doing, you've got a great name for that, Hayden Otto. It sounds like the new sort of, I don't know, like athleisure wear sort of brand. Joe Hall sounds like the next average sort of, I don't know, the next shitcoin to go to zero. So I needed to have some way to A, stand out, and B, signal my intentions and signal obviously what you've picked up on, which is my advocacy for Bitcoin. So Joe Nakamoto, it was actually a second iteration. Originally it was Crypto Joe, but I got attacked on Twitter because I was like, oh, I only care about Bitcoin. I'm like a Bitcoin minimalist. And people were like, well, why are you called Crypto Joe? And I was like, well, because it rhymes. And they're like, well, no, call yourself something else, because obviously crypto is everything. You know, it's all those funny tokens behind you. Whereas Joe Nakamoto obviously clearly says that I like Bitcoin and Lightning, and I only like those two. So there you go.
Awesome, now we know. And I probably should have mentioned that that's how this came about. I made a Lightning Network video towards the end of last year, and I was ripping into that piece because I was just like, the idea for that video, I was like, oh, I haven't talked about Lightning Network in literally years, so I kind of wanted to give a bit of an update on what's going on, and because I did hear a few things about it in that particular month that were not looking too good, so I was kind of like, oh yeah. I think things are going basically as I had anticipated they would go, which is not very good in my opinion. But of course, there is 2 sides to every story, I guess you could say, and you have a lot of hands-on experience with the good stuff, which is that there is, according to your reporting on YouTube and on Cointelegraph, there is adoption going on in certain areas. So tell us about where you've been and also what has been going on the ground in these locations.
Sure. Okay. So I used to work for Bloomberg and lots of mainstream media outlets. And with them, I was posted to sort of funny, far off places. You know, I lived in the Ivory Coast for a while. I lived in Trinidad and Tobago for a while. I lived in Tunisia. And I was sort of orange pilled during this experience and learned like, what is money? Why are these monies crap monies? And why Bitcoin could solve a lot of these issues. So like the way I approach Bitcoin is it's not like through a Western lens. You know how in a lot of the Western world, we don't really need Bitcoin the way that, say, Nigeria does right now. So I just want to like frame that as this is me like pre-Bitcoin and learning about Bitcoin. And I only really got into Bitcoin far later than you, so I'm nowhere near as well versed on the Bitcoin or crypto space as you are. You know, I properly took it seriously in 2019 and went like all in 2020. And since then, I was like, I need to get a job in Bitcoin. I need to write about Bitcoin. I need to take my skills that I've got in the sort of TradFi space and apply them to Bitcoin. And yeah, started sniffing around for Bitcoin and crypto jobs. Ended up at Cointelegraph after going through a few like really shit coin companies. And with them, I basically said, I won't name names. With them, I basically said, I would like to do what I was doing previously, but in the Bitcoin space, because I think that's really lacking. Like we have a lot of journalists that are at home picking up tweets, picking up, you know, piece of information on the internet and just turning that into a story. Whereas I actually want to go out and speak to people on the streets or in countries, wherever they are, and work out what Bitcoin adoption is like. And I'm not sure how much they believe me, but you know, I started the job in like October of 2021, was it? And in, you know, January, I was in the Azores for a month, and then I spent 2 months in Senegal. And they were like, "Oh, okay, you were serious about this thing. Like, you actually want to go out to like these like far out places and work out if people are using Bitcoin." And you know, one of the first stories was about the Senegalese community that is building a Bitcoin circular community. What do you call it? Circular community? Is that right? No, circular economy. Sorry.
Yeah, circular economy.
Sorry, it's early for me and late in the evening for you, so we both might be a bit out of kilter. And yeah, that sort of set me on this path of Twitter, the internet, social media. It's a massive echo chamber. It's very hard to find nuance, and it's very hard to find the actual truth behind a lot of these stories. So you've got to go out there and speak to people and observe and be like an old school journalist to work out what Bitcoin adoption is like. And so through this, it's taken me to countries like El Salvador, of course, you know, the Bitcoin country, as it's called, which interestingly, I don't think has as high levels of Bitcoin adoption as other countries, such as Guatemala or even Lugano. And yeah, Gibraltar was a funny one. Venice Beach, California was another. This is my actual personal YouTube channel. Thank you very much for the shill, Hayden, where I try to have like fun with people on the street and basically ask them like, you know, do you recognize this logo? And if they do, you know, we ask them about Bitcoin, get their opinion on it, and then go from there. So yeah, and I've got another video coming out soon from St. Lucia, another one from Senegal, because I went back to Senegal for the first African Bitcoin conference that was French speaking, which was in early December. That was the week before the Ghana Afro Bitcoin conference, which I imagine you must have seen. And then where else have I been? Shit, I've been like, I travel a lot, and wherever I go, I always like to try and work out what Bitcoin adoption is like, and if people are actually using the Lightning Network.
Okay, and so in those locations you have found that there's some stuff going on. Like, what do you use to find Bitcoin locations? Is there some directory or something like that? I know that's what I used to check out previously.
Yeah, so they used to be really bad, and now there seems to be one clear winner in terms of like Bitcoin directories, and it's called btcmap.org. And I don't know if you used to have, there's an app now as well, which is quite good. And the good thing about it is that it's completely community based. So not only can you start to list places, but you can start to review them. And then you can give them, you know, that gives a review score. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of places you walk into that you think they accept Bitcoin, they're like, oh yeah, in 2013, some dude orange pilled one of the waiting staff, and now, you know, there's no Bitcoin accepted here. Whereas, yeah, now you can literally go all over the world, and yeah, this list here includes communities. So, you know, there might be a Bitcoin community near you in Australia. There might be one. Well, there is one near me in Lisbon. Yes, El Salvador is a good place to look at. Although technically El Salvador should be completely populated, because naturally, you know, Bitcoin is accepted at all the McDonald's and Starbucks and petrol stations and that sort of thing. But that's the clear winner, and it's not like a for-profit enterprise. I actually know one of the guys that works for btcmap.org, but it's a really useful tool if you're ever out and about and want to know where can I spend Bitcoin, or where can I find a Bitcoin community as well. The other one I would recommend is Orange Pill app. I don't know if this has come across your radar as well, but that's basically an app that connects Bitcoiners. So if you want to...
Oh, like the Tinder thing?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not a dating app.com was its like slogan for a long time. But basically, yeah, it shows you where there are Bitcoiners near you, and if you want to link up with them, because it's Bitcoin. Naturally, a lot of people, like I can show you on here. Yeah, there you go. That's the website. Lots of people have hidden their identities and would rather not be, known, and they might sign up with their Twitter account name or their pseudonymous account name. But yeah, it's a really easy way to hang out with people, and there's lots of people on it.
You're
hey, look,
on
there's
here.
me. Yeah. I find that it's a really, really useful way to find stories, because I'll open that up when I go to a new country, and what does it take me to? Where does that go?
Oh, it just to download the app, I guess. Yeah, that's what it did.
Fair enough. Yeah, that's what happens when you click on me, guys. It's a really good way to connect with people, and also I found that it's a great way to find stories, because wherever I go, I always want to find people that are using Bitcoin. And like the other day, I was chatting with a guy who lives in Mozambique, and I was like, "Bro, can I send you some Bitcoin? What's the Bitcoin adoption like where you are?" And inevitably, in a lot of these places, it's awful. There's very few people talking about Bitcoin. And they just need someone to sort of tell them that it's okay to talk about these things, and that there's this, there is a community of cheering people on, and that's, I think, how adoption spreads, in my opinion.
Okay, so I thought it was like some sort of Tinder or something like that, but based on what you're describing, it sounds kind of like a meetup.com sort of thing. Is that more what it is?
That's a pretty good comparison. Yeah, you can actually date on there, and there are people that have found love on this app, but it's not the core premise. And also, I actually know the co-founder.
Gold diggers.
Exactly. Yeah, this was one of the big risks, right, that they were worried about when they were putting it up. But the ratio of males to females on Orange Pill app. Actually, I've got a question for you. Do you know what the ratio is of males to females on Tinder? Sorry. Do you know what that split is?
I would probably say there's more guys on there.
Yeah, like what sort of ratio though? Like we're thinking like 60-40?
Oh, probably like 30% women and 70%
yeah, it's
men.
It's like 96% men.
Oh, holy
it's like
crap.
It's a ridiculous figure. And the co-founder of Orange Pill app was saying, or the founder, sorry, was saying that, on Orange Pill app, the ratio is like 60% men, 40% women, despite the fact that the Bitcoin space is obviously very, very male dominated, as I'm sure you've seen or experienced. So that was quite an interesting sort of facet. So clearly there are lots of women as well who want to talk about Bitcoin.
Or find a rich Bitcoiner husband or whatever.
Sure. It could be a good catfish, couldn't it?
Yeah. Okay. So this is one of the platforms you're using to connect with people in your travels. As far as adoption goes, let's look at Lightning specifically. So, which areas are you seeing that have Lightning? Is it everywhere, or is it only in certain places? Because some places are like Bitcoin, but like the two. Let's differentiate the two, Lightning and Bitcoin.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the first thing is that a lot of people don't know to differentiate the two, and I don't know what that means right now or what it means in the next sort of 5 years. But like, look at El Salvador. Okay, like they adopted Bitcoin 1.5 years ago now, as in like the law actually came into place. And if you go into most places, you'll struggle to pay in Bitcoin easily, unless you're in somewhere like McDonald's or Starbucks or one of the big sort of wholesale stores, which have just actually nailed their system and they've got it really good. But if you go into like a mum and pop store, then there's tends to be quite a bit of confusion around what is Bitcoin, what is Lightning, how do I accept Bitcoin or how do I accept dollars? Because most people just want to accept dollars, because naturally you'd want to accept dollars unless you knew what Bitcoin was, because it's this new thing that sounds a bit scary, and that's, that there's not been a huge amount of education about it. So that's the key thing there, is that there's always confusion about the two. Like, why would I send you Lightning when I want the Bitcoin? Like that's a different name. And on top of that, in El Salvador, of course, everyone speaks Spanish, and all these words are English words. So it even adds further to this confusion. So yeah, when you compare El Salvador to Bitcoin Beach, where obviously there was 3 years of education and patience and learning. In El Salvador, you can live, sorry, in Bitcoin Beach, you can live off Lightning only if you really want to. It's very easy to do so. I found 2 restaurants that didn't accept Bitcoin or Lightning while I was there. I was only in Bitcoin Beach for 5 days because I wanted to see lots of other places in El Salvador. Because if you go to Bitcoin Beach, it's not really like you're going to El Salvador. It's like going to Mexico and staying in Cancun and being like, oh yeah, Mexico's amazing. It's like, nah, bro, you sat in the hotel resort for the whole time. So when you get off the beaten track a bit, you realize that, okay, there's a lot to be done with Bitcoin adoption. And this sort of thing is just going to take a lot of time. And getting Bitcoin people to visit, getting interested parties to visit is all part of the process. And I mean, I've got a little mini documentary coming out from El Salvador in the next couple of weeks. And in it, I sort of do a call to action where I say, if you're considering going to El Salvador, just do it. It's one of the most amazing countries in the world. And it's one of the most amazing countries because it's going through this revolution or this transition. So I've lived in a lot of countries that are undergoing phenomenal fundamental change. The Ivory Coast, for example, I lived there 2 years after the Civil War. I know what it feels like to be in a country that has real change underway. And El Salvador has that sort of energy or that taste about it. And it's really cool to experience that. I mean, I had people come up to me in the street and say, thank you for visiting my country. Where have you been in the world where someone will come up to you in the street? I doubt I'll get that treatment if I come to Australia. Well, no one's going to walk up to me thank you for coming. It's an amazing experience. And I mean, that's not obviously related to Bitcoin. That's related to Bukele, the leader who's eradicated or almost eradicated sort of gang violence and has really laid down the law. But what he hasn't done is educate his people properly about Bitcoin and Lightning, which fortunately there are lots of really good companies that are working hard at doing that. Like My First Bitcoin. Have you heard of those guys? Mi Primer Bitcoin?
No, I haven't heard of those guys, no.
Okay, so I did a big interview with John Dennehy, their founder, maybe last year, and they are taking Bitcoin education in El Salvador by the scruff of the neck and saying, look, it's not good enough. We need to start rolling this out in schools. And the best way to educate people about Bitcoin is to educate the sort of 12 to 15-year-olds. Why? Because the 12 to 15-year-olds are digitally native. They go home to their parents every day and they show their parents how to use Bitcoin, how to send sats, this, that, and the other. And also, Bitcoin is a low time preference thing. We know that while we're using Bitcoin now, we're in this silly bubble echo chamber thing. And in 10 years' time, we've got to... Oh, I don't know if my stream is still going.
Yeah. Everything's all good here.
Oh, sorry, just a little bit lagged on my side. They realized that in 10 years' time, these guys are going to be the major earners in the El Salvador economy, and wouldn't it be amazing if they knew how to use Bitcoin effectively and correctly? Part of the test they do is to custody your own keys. Can you wipe a wallet? Can you reinstall the wallet? Do you know what the difference is between Bitcoin and Lightning? All these sorts of things. And they've had, I think, 5 classes graduate so far. So 5 classes of 100 kids. And they're doing this in a tiny school in the outskirts of San Salvador called El Pacheco. So I visited them while I was in El Salvador. And I was just blown away by the fact that you have got schools teaching Bitcoin as part of the curriculum. And I think that's, what El Salvador needed and what it should have done a lot earlier on. So that people realize, oh, wow, this is the coolest thing. And so I interviewed some of the kids. And I was like, are you hodling? Can I pay you your first Bitcoin for doing some work with me? Because obviously they'd never worked before. And I was like, I want to interview you, but obviously I want to pay you Bitcoin for that. You could say it's child labor, but it was just a funny little skit that I wanted to do with them. And I paid them and I was like, oh, what are you gonna do with the money? And they're like, well, obviously I'm gonna hodl it, I'm gonna save it. And this is a good way of segueing into talking about why Lightning doesn't work, but the hodl narrative and the fact that Bitcoin is an amazing store of value is probably one of the reasons why Bitcoin as a medium of exchange won't take off or hasn't taken off yet, and probably won't take off for, I don't know, maybe another cycle, maybe 2 cycles before people actually start to spend Bitcoin in places. I'll leave it there.
Right. So there's a number of points I wanted to touch on, starting with Bukele. At first I saw this guy and I was thinking, oh yeah, I think he's, I was getting the impression that El Salvador is this corrupt place and,
It is.
Maybe he's doing some shady dealings with some Bitcoin people to push this, but I don't know. I've seen some of the other stuff that he's done with, just, as you said, like he's taking control of the crime and things like that in the country. Like that seems pretty impressive to me, but at the same time, kind of a bit skeptical. I'm like, oh, who knows if this is just his like PR team putting that out. So I'm remaining a bit skeptical of that sort of thing. But I did see one interview with him on the Tucker Carlson program, and I was pretty impressed by what he said there. So yeah, maybe he's the real deal. But as well,
I mean, he's a genius PR man. Like just to put your point about the PR, he is a genius PR man. Like, look at his Twitter profile. Look at the way he manages the media. He is so in El Salvador. The El Faro is like one of the biggest media publications, and they're completely against Bukele. And yet at the same time, so this is the biggest media operation in the country, is against the current leader. However, if you talk to people, and I did literally interview people as part of that YouTube video you just on my profile, I literally asked people, obviously there's a camera rolling, so you could say that, they know there's a camera rolling, so they know they have to say the right thing. But I asked maybe 50 people, some of them off camera, what would you say about Bukele, and how would you sum up El Salvador in one word? And only one person out of these 50 said a bad word about El Salvador. They said delincuencia, which is like crime. And then everyone else said it was like incredible hope, peace, vision, all this sort of stuff. And then when you ask them about Bukele, they're like, my president is the best president in the world. Like, we've never had such an amazing figurehead, like all this rousing sort of incredible stuff. And he has an approval rating of 91%. That is a sort of approval rating that most dictators would dream of. And this is a guy who's like democratically elected or whatever. It's good to be skeptical, and I don't want to cheer on someone who could become a dictator or whatever. But when you see the change that people have undergone in the past 5 years, they can now leave their homes in safety after dark, whereas previously they couldn't. The homicide rate for this month of January was like one of the lowest in Latin America. It's phenomenal what security and safety can do for people's, general well-being. And that's, it's really not to be sniffed at. And yes, we've got to be skeptical of all our leaders, but this is one guy who's really changing a country, and he's doing it really quickly. So yeah, I don't know. I think when you go there as well, it really does sort of. I went there with this, skeptical Alex Gladstein sort of point of view, and I got there and I couldn't help but getting carried away with the vibe, the emotion of the place. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I'm keen to go check it out myself at some point, so we'll see what happens. But one major point of concern with what's going on there in terms of Bitcoin was that I'm pretty sure all the people were basically forced to use this particular app. It was like written
Chivo.
into law, that they had to use this particular app, otherwise, there would be trouble. And a lot of people were not happy about that. They didn't want to go along with it, and I saw there was a bunch of protesting and things going on with regards to that. So. I was kind of surprised as well when you said that you went there and a lot of people were seemingly not really using it yet at this point, even though it was supposed to be forced onto everyone. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, the forcing thing is, I don't know if they were forced, but the $30 that was given out when the law was introduced, you could sign up to this app called Chivo, which is a crap app. And you could, you type in your government ID, which is like your passport number or whatever, and you would access this $30. So they were forced to download this app, I guess, or they were incentivized heavily to download this app because they would get $30. However, this in itself was problematic because it led to a lot of identity theft, i.e. people would steal other people's driver's licenses, get the code that was on there, sign up to the Chivo app, and then steal the $30 and then move on to the next one. So loads of people, when they went to download Chivo for what they thought was the first time, there was no $30 there because someone had already stolen their ID number. So the rollout of Chivo was abominable. And the Chivo app itself is crap and was crap and is improving, but it's still pretty awful. So what a lot of these Bitcoin companies are trying to do is to show that there are lots of other solutions out there, like Blue Wallet or Wallet Satoshi or Moon Wallet or Phoenix or whatever you want, that aren't this sort of government-friendly Chivo app. There are certain advantages to using Chivo, and it's basically a bit like mobile money in Africa, if you ever used that, where you can just sort of text people money. It's really sort of slick and smooth, but Bitcoin and Lightning is confused. Dollars and pounds is confused, and it's just a really bad UX generally. So it confuses people more than it helps people. So yeah, this Chivo app is awful, and I'm not the first person to speak out about how bad it is. But you've also got to get a sense of the perspective. Like, this is a massively unbanked population, and just by downloading an app, people have suddenly become a bank, which is really cool, right? It means people can think about their futures, their kids' futures, they can start to save. So while we're being really skeptical, it's also like one of the poorest countries in Latin America. It had the highest crime rate, had the highest murder rate, and 70% of people were unbanked. And now 4 million people have downloaded Chivo and supposedly are using it on a regular-ish basis. I went to check this. I asked people on the street, when did you last use Bitcoin? And I had answers varying from yesterday to 6 months ago to I deleted the app. So it's a real spectrum of answers here. And again, this is in one of the videos I uploaded, and I just wanted to get a sense of, okay, are people using Bitcoin, and why are they or why aren't they? And it's when I spoke to, do you know Ricky and Laura, the Bitcoin explorers? They're like really good sort of Bitcoin content creators. They're the Italian couple, and they're like so Ricky used to be a human rights activist. Laura is like a content creator, and they've traveled around a lot of Latin America now, and they do it in quite an honest way. So a lot of people, when they travel now, they just look for the Bitcoin communities and go there, and then know that they can spend sats easily. Whereas Ricky and Laura go to these places and go as a tourist and walk into shops and be like, can I spend Bitcoin here? Where can I spend Bitcoin? This sort of thing, which is obviously a lot more tiring, and you've got to be more patient to do that. But it gets a more honest, accurate outlook of what Bitcoin adoption is actually like. So they did this in El Salvador when the law was introduced, and they did it 1 year later. And their sort of comparison is quite interesting, because they reckon that Bitcoin adoption has dropped over the past year because the price has dropped. So of course, if the price is pumping, people are more alert to Bitcoin, because what is the best marketing tool for Bitcoin? It's number go up technology, right? So I reckon that come the next bull run, if there are much more sort of educational foundations in place, thanks to groups like My First Bitcoin, then we will see like a critical mass of Lightning adoption in El Salvador. But right now it's still, in my opinion, quite fringe. And, it's the Bitcoiners that have moved to El Salvador. Like, there's an Australian couple, actually, Nikki and James, that moved to El Salvador, and they're documenting their adventures there on YouTube. And they still use cash every now and then and are unable to live off Bitcoin only, which is the reality of the situation in El Salvador.
So as well, do you see, as like a Lightning and Bitcoin supporter, do you see a problem with the fact that it seems that most people are trending towards, or in the case of El Salvador, they're being asked to use these custodial solutions that are essentially bank accounts? Like most of the Bitcoiners are saying, on one side, they're saying, oh, don't trust, verify, and, they're saying like, oh, uncensorable money and all this sort of thing. But then at the same time, they are advocating for Wallet of Satoshi, which is a custodial bank, essentially. And those guys can choose whether they take your money, whether they stop you from spending it at certain locations. All that sort of thing is possible with that. So, how is it any better than the existing fiat systems that are currently in place? It seems like it's the same thing with more steps required and further complexity, and you're also being exposed to Bitcoin price movements as well, which a lot of people do not really like.
Or stomach. Yeah, no, the volatility is always my biggest issue when introducing Bitcoin to people for the first time. And I still struggle to explain to people that, the volatility is the price you pay for, the gains in the future and all that sort of crap. And it's very hard to tell people that, yes, the fiat mindset is a mindset which is instant, buy now, I want things right away, and there's no sort of long-termist vision. And it's very hard to snap people into that. So yeah, volatility, I don't have a good answer to, especially for newbies, approaching Bitcoin for the first time. When it comes to the custodial versus, non-custodial, of course, we should all be preaching not your keys, not your coins. And that's a really important fundamental tenet of Bitcoin philosophy, the idea that no one can take this from you and you can take this to the grave if you want to. However, it's unrealistic, to expect that 7 billion people will all hold their keys at some point. And also the network can't scale for that right now, can it? So I think the future of like Bitcoin and Lightning is going to be lots of custodial solutions and lots of self-custodial solutions where people can hold their own keys. Even with my own like Lightning behavior, like I use Wallet of Satoshi probably way more regularly than I use Phoenix, and I don't really mind about that because I think that the Lightning privacy is slightly better anyway than base chain privacy. But on top of that, I think that the UX right now and the difficulty with using Lightning self-custodially is too high for the average Joe, i.e. me, to get into and to really like take part in. So I'm aware that we're still like early. I know that you've been watching Lightning for the past 6 years now, since it was first introduced in 2016 or whatever, and you'd expect there to be better uptick or there'd be better adoption. But I think you've got to look at it in this sort of framework of what is Bitcoin adoption like, what are people using Bitcoin for, and let's put it as like 96% of people are using Bitcoin as a savings tool. Very few people are using Bitcoin to actually pay for goods and services, because if you want to pay for a good or service in Bitcoin, you're probably doing it for an unconfiscatable thing, right? That's what we saw as Bitcoin's use cases in the first 14 years, like WikiLeaks, Silk Road, paying for drugs, basically stuff that was unconfiscatable, right? So there was no real need for Lightning because you were happy to wait those 10 or 30 minutes for the transaction to confirm. But now we have Lightning. It's like, wow, this is an amazing medium of exchange. But are people spending this money, which we know, as you mentioned, is very volatile? And then, you can bring up scaling challenge as well. Like obviously Lightning cannot scale to 7 billion people yet. But I think this is what is the market requiring right now from Lightning and Bitcoin. And it's two very small countries with very small populations, with very small purchasing power, Central African Republic and El Salvador. Does the Lightning Network cope with these two countries easily, very, very comfortably? I think that when more and more countries get on board with Lightning, which is inevitable this year, I reckon Guatemala and Tonga and Fiji around the corner, we'll see more of this sort of medium of exchange. And I think, that's again when we need better custodial solutions and better self-custodial solutions. But at the moment, it's one of those things where you said that they're trending towards they're trending towards custodial solutions. I think people aren't trending towards custodials. I think they're trending towards custodial solutions. And I think that all these issues with FTX and all these exchanges going up in flames have really served to help people push towards those, to taking custody of your coins. I've said a lot of things there.
Well, okay, so can you explain how can you do that with Lightning? Like, how can you take custody of your own coins?
Sure. So
with like one of these apps. So can you do it with any of these apps that I downloaded?
With Moon, you can. With Moon, you can. Yeah.
What does it entail? Let's hang on. Let me whip this out here. Let's have a look. So I got 3 apps that I downloaded. We'll go have a look at this Moon one. So a lot of Lightning people have been saying, oh yeah, this is the one that you want to use. So let's just go through the setup process and see what it's like.
Cool.
Okay.
So there you go. That is it. The issue here is at the top right, you need to check Bitcoin and Lightning there. That's what I don't like about Moon, is that it doesn't make it obvious that you're going between Bitcoin and Lightning.
Right. So, this is a Bitcoin wallet right now. Is that what you're saying?
It is, Yeah, so well, it's a Bitcoin wallet. Moon's a funny one because I'm not sure they actually do Lightning per se. They do like, is it submarine swaps or something? I don't actually know how it works, but I don't actually use Moon as my go-to demonstration wallet for that reason because I don't know how to explain it properly.
So how do you get
But
to Lightning Network on here?
well, that's it. So you were there on the screen when you tap receive, it gives you the
Oh,
option.
on receive.
Yeah, you've got Bitcoin and Lightning
right.
at the top
Okay.
there. So this is what I don't like about Moon is that it's not Lightning first, and it's not obvious that you're using Lightning. So people will use that and think, oh, look, so there you go. Now you've got your Lightning QR code, and you can share that with whoever, or I can send you some sats, for example. But that's the go-to is Bitcoin, and that's what I don't like because that's what the Chivo wallet did in El Salvador as well. Like who in their right mind is using Bitcoin base chain for payments? It makes no like for micro payments as well.
I'll have to work out a bit more how this one is operating because right now, like this seems highly unusual for Lightning to just work straight away like that. It would have to be relying on some other system, I would imagine.
Do you mean like?
But like,
do you mean like running your own node versus like being able to back up your own keys?
Yeah, what I mean is that if you want it to be taking custody of your own coins, then generally the Lightning experience is not that smooth. So I'm gonna have to do some research into that and see how it's operating under the hood.
So, for example, yeah, I mean, you could. I mean, I don't really know how it works with Lightning node because
it's a normal Bitcoin wallet on the BTC side. So yeah, that's all cool. You can back up the seed, I guess. Even though it's asking me to put in an email address and stuff like that. So I wonder what comes after that. Normally, you shouldn't even have to do that.
Yeah, I don't know why it's requesting that idea. As I say, I don't really use Moon as it's not as it doesn't have the wow factor the way that other Lightning wallets do as well. Okay, so you're verifying your email, nice. But does it not give you the seed phrase, or whatever? Can you not?
I assume that comes next, but for some reason it's asking basically it's asking to create an account with the email address.
So I think this could be because Moon doesn't actually do Lightning, but it does like the zero conf like submarine swaps thing, or something along those lines. I might be chatting absolute rubbish here, but it's not actually sending sats over Lightning the way that other wallets are. Like Blue, I saw you had Blue Wallet on there.
Yeah.
Like Blue Wallet, you can back up your keys the same way that you can with a normal. You tap Add Now and then tap Lightning. So I have used this quite a few times, and so it'll ask you to back up the seed phrase straight away, which you can then. So there you go. That's your Lightning address backed up there, so you can copy that. Just tap it and it'll copy it. Yeah. Or you can screenshot it or whatever. I mean, you probably shouldn't screenshot it, but the other thing is that Lightning is for smaller amounts of Bitcoin, right? You don't want to put your life savings onto the Lightning network. It's just not a good idea. I can send you some sats right now, for example.
Okay.
I think,
so what
you need
what is? I have to.
So you tap where 0 is. Tap where 0 is.
So you have to request. You have to request the amount.
You don't have to. You can get a static. Maybe not with Blue Wallet. I'm not sure.
Seems to be working now. So yeah, basically you have to put in the amount you want.
Okay. Because I don't know if Blue Wallet, if there is a static QR code or not, in that you can like receive Bitcoin from anywhere. I don't know how it works. All right. Okay. So my screen is a little bit what's the word? Jittery. Oh no. So I've just paid you now. So that should have gone over to you. There you go.
Right. And so I got this. So let's say I'm a merchant. I just received this payment. So how then can you take these sats on Lightning and like cash it out to fiat currency?
I don't know if Moon Wallet offers that. I think you're using the wrong tool there. Moon Wallet isn't a good merchant solution. Moon Wallet is good for sending sats around.
This one is Blue Wallet now, but yeah.
Oh, sorry, Blue Wallet. I'm getting all confused. I don't use Blue Wallet for merchant, and I wouldn't use Blue Wallet for merchant. It's a good wallet, but it's for individuals. It's for you to use at home or whatever. If you wanted a merchant solution, then I would look at the Lightning wallets that are made for that, such as Breeze. Like Breeze has that built in, and it has a POS built in. That's the one that's I forgot the name of the CEO, but he was the guy that I spoke with on stage in Biarritz, and he was saying Lightning doesn't always work and sort of thing. And they've got so they've built this sort of the POS point of sale point into the Lightning app itself. I often use Wallet of Satoshi if I'm speaking to people that I know aren't going to get a lot of Bitcoin visitors. I mean, I could show you how that one works as well. I mean, Wallet of Satoshi, I think.
Don't worry, I've got plenty of experience with that one.
Yeah, I mean, they're Aussies, right? So do you know the guys that work at Wallet of Satoshi?
Yeah, I do. And I've criticized this one a few years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
A few years ago. Well, it's I'm sure it's changed a lot since then. Of course it's still custodial, so you're trusting that Wallet of Satoshi doesn't do anything bad with your money. But I found that this has the best sort of like ease of use and ease of use in poorer countries too. The only thing that I don't like about Wallet of Satoshi is that it's dark mode as standard, which is crap in sunny countries. Because in El Salvador or Guatemala, you need it to be light mode.
The main question, like from just like anyone's perspective, I say, not just businesses. Like if you've received money from someone, then you want to like cash it out. In most cases, people who are not like crypto gurus or enthusiasts or whatever, they want to cash in. And so, like, how do you do this with Lightning?
I see.
Exchanges, do exchanges allow you to send them sats with one of these apps?
Yes. Yep. So, I mean, Wallet of Satoshi has Lightning and base chain built in. Moon also has Lightning and base chain built in, so you can send to all exchanges in that way. However, Kraken has Lightning integrated, so you can send sats to Kraken now, which is obviously the cheapest way to cash out. So does Coin Corner. Binance obviously doesn't, because Binance are the devil. Coinbase haven't yet because they're still trying to make money from shitcoins. Bitfinex obviously have Lightning integrated and were the first Lightning node and have the biggest. So they've got the first largest and the third largest Lightning node on the network. So they're, Bitfinex traders love Bitfinex. So that's a great way of cashing out through an exchange. But if you're a merchant and you're accepting Bitcoin seriously, then it's worth looking at an actual tool built for that. Like how Zettle or SumUp or, those little tap to pay cards you have in,
Yes.
I don't know what the brands are in Australia, but,
like one of the crypto debit card things.
No, like the actual, like when you tap to pay in a shop nowadays, you're using software or...
Oh, right. Okay, they call that PayWave here.
PayWave. Okay, great. So that equivalent, you're looking for that equivalent, but with Lightning, right? Because you don't want to use a wallet that's for an individual for Lightning, because that's like using a bank account to try to accept merchant payments, and it's just not like ideal. Like Lightning is great for keeping Bitcoin on the network, but if you want an off-ramp, then you need a tool that has that off-ramp built in. So services like Coin Corner will do that for you in the UK, Gibraltar, Ireland, and Europe. BTC Pay Server works all around the world. For example, in Senegal, they're using that. So you generate a QR code on BTC Pay Server. You can scan that with, it can be Bitcoin Lightning or it can be Bitcoin LN URL, and that gets sent straight to your wallet. And it can be all done non-custodially. I've got videos of me paying for stuff like this in countries around the world, but I've not done it myself because I'm not a merchant, and I'm also not someone that orange pills merchants per se. I tend to orange pill individuals who have shops. So if I was looking to orange pill like the guy that owns 6 restaurants in Lisbon, I would talk to the Portuguese Bitcoiners and be like, what is the best off-ramp for these guys to get euros if they want to? Usually I'm talking to like the places I like to spend money, which is small like shops. Like yesterday or last week, I orange pilled the bodyboard shop down below me. I know that he's going to get 2 people a month buying stuff from him in Bitcoin, and therefore he's happy to have a Lightning wallet to do that, and he sends it to an exchange as and when he wants to cash out. But if you're a merchant and you're taking it seriously, then use a tool that's good for merchants. I mean, Breeze does it as well. Breeze has a POS built in. But yeah, I think it's more a question of like use the right thing for the right solution, and the wallets you've got up there are not like built for that.
Right. Okay. Any of the ones that you think are right for merchants, do any of them not have KYC? Like, I would imagine that most of them have KYC involved in it.
KYC for the merchant, I'm guessing you mean that, obviously not the customer.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I would have to go on BTC Pay Server to work it out. I mean, there's a video where you see the BTC Pay Server thing pop up. Have you ever bought something with like Bitcoin recently, like online? Usually it's
Yes.
BTC Pay Server that is the sort of the checkout thing at the end. You'll scan that.
Well,
and
for the customers, it's no worries. But like for people that are wanting to receive this, this is where I think there's a bunch of issues.
Yeah, I can't. I mean,
we know one of the major ones that are promoted is like Strike, for example. You definitely have to KYC on that.
I wouldn't promote Strike though for that reason. Let's see, Bitcoin BTC Pay Server, self-hosted, open source cryptocurrency payment processor, secure, private, censorship resistant, and free. I can't see a mention of KYC, but I'd have to use it or check it to work out how to do it.
BTC Pay Server, I'm like vaguely familiar with this one. I think this is probably not something that is suited for noobs. I think there's a bit more. It's like fairly involved to get it going.
Yeah, that's fair comment. Have you looked at Breeze, the Lightning app? I mean, I haven't looked at this for ages, but I know that I keep forgetting his name. I was taking the mick of him in France last year, being like, Breeze always messes up. Breeze is crap, you know.
Right.
And he was like, we've made some really good adjustments to the app, and it's better now for using it as a point of sale and using it as a merchant.
So I'm check it out.
I'm literally downloading it myself. I'm downloading it myself right now because I literally deleted the app because I was like, this is not a good Lightning UX. So I go onto the app. I can restore from a backup. I'm just gonna go on Let's Breeze, and there we go. I've got the usual sort of where is it?
Yep.
And then on there you can do a point of sale. So that looks a lot like.
I'm pretty sure I've tried this one like maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and it wasn't great.
Man, like if you, no, my experience last year was the same. But this is the amazing thing about Lightning is that there's so many people working on it, and there's so many people who are so passionate about it that the solutions are literally getting better by the day. I mean, Lynn Alden, the macroeconomic expert, she describes it as a freight train. She says that this freight train is very hard to bring up to speed, but once it starts, it's overcome that inertia and it's picked up some momentum. It's an unstoppable force, and this is what the Lightning Network is. I think your criticism for the Lightning Network are from like before I got into Bitcoin, which is probably why you're put off by it.
Well, there's a few things I want to cover before we run out of time. I don't know how much longer you've got left, but probably like another 20 minutes or so.
10, 15 is good, right. But I really should do some more.
Yeah, let's cover this pretty quickly then. But I first want to show this article here. Let me just get it up. So this is just from a few days ago. This is basically, they're saying that some BTC that has been locked on Avalanche Network has surpassed the total value of all the BTC in Lightning. And this is on what you would say is a shitcoin. So also it's not only just Avalanche where this is the case, it's also the same on Ethereum. Ethereum has 180,000 BTC wrapped on Ethereum. And they're saying as well there's 52,000 on Binance Smart Chain. So it's like multiple other blockchains. The amount on Lightning is 5,500 BTC.
Yeah.
So is this like a promising development in your opinion that like people are using BTC on other competing blockchains more so than they're using it on Lightning's layer 2 solution to payments?
Yeah. No, these numbers look completely trivial by comparison, and that's absolutely fine in my opinion because it's what Bitcoin is doing right now is it's becoming a money. And if you're putting your Bitcoin into Wrap Bitcoin or into Avalanche or whatever it is, then you're trying to do fancy DeFi applications with it, right? You're trying to leverage it. You're trying to make more money with your Bitcoin. That's fair, right? We agree on that.
I think that most of the people using crypto are trying to speculate and gamble. So yeah.
Cool. So Lightning, as we've sort of established, is a payments technology, and there are very few people using Bitcoin as payments right now. So the issue isn't necessarily that there's loads of people are doing crazy, funny stuff with their Bitcoin. It's more that there's still very few people using Bitcoin as a means of exchange, and that is only going to stay that way until, I don't know, maybe like 2030, we'll start to see more people spending their Bitcoin, but people don't want to spend this thing that goes up in value and that is volatile, especially in the Western world, which is what a lot of like this DeFi stuff is conducted on. However, we are seeing lots of grassroots movement of Bitcoin as a means of exchange in developing countries. And that's why I get really excited about it. And, I'm really passionate about what that change can bring to these people. So yeah, I don't think it's anything to be really worried about. I think it'd be really worrying if the numbers were trending downward, or the amount of development taking place on Lightning was going downward. But yeah, if Bitcoin is going to monetize, then it has to become a store of value first, and then eventually, a means of exchange, a medium of exchange. I keep saying that wrong. So yeah, it's not.
So I think a lot of the points that you're making, like this is stuff that we've been hearing for many, many years, and like they said prior to when you got involved in Bitcoin, like you said 2018 or so, you started getting serious with 2019. Yeah. Prior to that, they were saying the same stuff, and we kind of by now we should have had a mass adoption of Lightning according to the people, the thought leaders and stuff back then. But
really?
This
you were lied
is
to.
sort of, this has gone the opposite direction. Like one chart that's very telling is like the crypto market dominance chart, and previously BTC was like 90%. Have you seen this one? And it's probably at like 40%,
downward,
between 30 and 40% or something like that now. So
yeah.
this
and
is...
if that trend continues, then stable coins will be like the biggest by market share, which again proves that, the means of exchange thing is like quite a big argument. Like, there's how many coins in the top 10 now are stable coins? Like 3, 4?
Yeah, there's a lot. But prior to them like being on the scene, people were using Bitcoin for payments, but like anyone that really wanted to do that was shut down. So one other thing I wanted to ask of you before we run out of time was like, how well versed are you with like the history of Bitcoin, like prior to your involvement? Because I kind of get the feeling like in my discussion with you today, that there's a lot of things that you may be missing out on.
What, like the block size war, or
like the stuff that happened around that period, and even before that all came to a head.
I mean,
are you
the only way I can learn about this, well versed, I didn't live through it the way that you did, and I'm happy to hold my hands up there. But before working in this space, like most Bitcoin advocates, I spent as much time as I could trying to work out what the hell this thing is. And in order to understand that, you have to look at the history. So I've read a fair share of Bitcoin books that cover that history, from the Book of Satoshi to the Block Size War to all these books that look at the history of Bitcoin, but without trawling through internet forums and going back through old Twitter posts. And I'm a big fan of Pete Rizzo and what he does in terms of documenting like the ancient history of Bitcoin, but I didn't live through it, and I can't pretend to have the experienced knowledge of that. I don't know if you're like, there's something that like there's jumping out of you. They're like, oh my God, he doesn't know about X event, or
Well, I don't know.
does he not know that Silk Road was hacked?
No, I think that you're very well intentioned, and like obviously you're very enthusiastic about using Bitcoin for payments, but what is being pushed as the solution today is like taken many steps backwards from where Bitcoin was previously, essentially. because the experience previously was vastly superior to the Lightning options that are available today. And in fact,
What
I
is
would
it
say
sending?
that as a result of many people moving off Bitcoin to other coins like Ethereum, the experience on the base, like the main chain BTC, is not really that bad right now. It was worse previously when it was more congested.
Yeah, like 2017 run up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
So
yeah, I
like
mean,
right now,
again,
base layer BTC is better than Lightning still. But obviously it'll come under pressure again if there's more users on there.
it depends. It depends what you're looking to do, right? If you want to do something illicit, or you want to ensure that or you've got time on your hands, then base chain is of course there for you. You want an uncensorable transaction, then it's there. But if you want to do day-to-day payments, then Lightning is also there. But who in their right mind is spending Bitcoin right now? It's only weirdos like me. That there's very few people who are living Bitcoin only and who have decided that, yeah, this is the future. I want to be part of it. I want to build and take part in that. Most people are still using dollars day to day. It's Gresham's law, right? The bad, you save the good money and you spend the bad money. These are inevitable, and I don't know who told you these things in 2014, 2015, 2016, whenever it was, but I don't think Lightning will have huge use until probably 2030. Americans won't use it because it's a tax. Every time you spend Bitcoin, there's the tax implications of that. So there's no incentive to spend your Bitcoin if you're in the US, and of course the US is still the largest market. We're going to get lots more countries in sub-Saharan Africa, in Latin America, using Bitcoin as legal tender, and therefore using the Lightning Network. But they're not really going to move the needle in terms of what you perceive as adoption, because they're not like big, powers. Like, did the El Salvador law shock you, or did it surprise you? Were you like, oh wow, maybe Lightning is now, taking off, or were you like, it's a tiny Latin American country of 6 million people? Smaller than most cities.
No, I'm kind of, just like agnostic towards it now. That's my stance on most things. So I just kind of observe what's going on. And obviously, I think there's better options available than Lightning. But also, when I saw that, I felt like, there must have been some kind of deal done here between some players and the El Salvadorian government to achieve that. But and also obviously I think there's better options, so I was kind of confused, why would they want to use this?
Yeah, but I mean, I just sent you sats. I'm sat in Portugal, you're sat in Australia. All you did was have to download a wallet. What is better? What is a better option than that? That UX was so easy. You just download an app.
You can have the same UX on shitcoins, as you would call them. But one of the questions that I still have is that, like, how can you? I don't know for certain that this is fully custodial. I don't know that the private keys are on my phone. That seemed a bit definitely in the case of like Blue Wallet here. I don't know what's going on, or with the
just wipe
wallet.
it
And
wipe it and restore it. Then
we don't know how to cash it out essentially either. So this is unclear.
I can answer those two questions straight away. Wipe Blue Wallet, install it on Phoenix with that code you just copied, and then to cash out, send it to your exchange of choice or send it peer to peer. A lot of people nowadays that are in Lightning are not looking to cash out in the first place. That's kind of the beauty of it. It's that, once you start to really use Bitcoin and get paid in Bitcoin and get paid in Lightning, then you're like, well, I want to spend the Bitcoin. There is no cashing out in a world where you are, all in on Bitcoin, which is also kind of the beauty of it. Well,
obviously, that's appealing to the enthusiasts, but the average people that want to do other things with that, like you have expenses to pay for and in your business, and not everywhere is accepting Lightning.
Yeah,
so that's a problem.
We still need a Lightning pill CZ. That would be a big one, but for some reason they're not interested. I just wanted to answer one of the questions in the chat. The guy who said like it's unrealistic using custodial, Herman's crypto guide. I do think that the whole world holding their own keys is unrealistic. I don't know if you ever tried to orange pill an old person, but getting them to hold their own keys is really, really hard. And I wouldn't want, an 80-year-old like my grandma, for example, before she died. I tried to get her to hold her own keys, and it did not end up well. I think that literacy rates, rates of understanding of like simple maths are very low. A lot of people still can't read and write. I don't know how you're going to get those people to hold their own keys when they can't write their own name. I think it's just, get out of your echo chamber, get out of your developed country, go see the world, and you'll realize that we are in a very privileged position sitting here watching these YouTube chats take place. And we think that, the whole world's going to, custody their own Bitcoin. We need to create solutions that do cater for people that are less advantaged than us. And I think that's something that we've got to bear in mind with that. So I just wanted to reply to that comment.
Look, there's so much more to talk about, honestly, and I know we're out of time, unfortunately. That's why I'm kind of frustrated, but maybe we'll just have to come back another day.
In the
there's
meantime,
a lot of things that I agree with you on. Like, I agree with what you just said before about the people backing up their keys. This is issues that I've run into as well. So, there is like common ground on a lot of these issues.
Your audience is quite Bitcoin Cash, isn't it? I'm noticing in the comments there's a lot of Bitcoin Cashers.
Yeah.
People that really want to use Bitcoin as a payment store. I could use it to pay for stuff in 2015. It's like,
Well, look, even Ethereum is going back to payments now, apparently, according to Vitalik. So once they get the sharding stuff out the door, they're going to focus on payments again. He said something along those lines. So, Lightning Network's got some competition coming for it.
I mean, that's good. Like, we need the market to decide where at the end of the day, the market has decided that Bitcoin is the best store of value or the best money. We're just now seeing that money become monetized, right? Like when Bitcoin was first created, it was never anticipated that everyone would settle their coffees on the base layer. It was always supposed to build in layers. We know that. We know that from Hal Finney's writing, for example. Like Satoshi didn't code it up knowing that, 7 billion people would be able to transact with it on a daily basis. There was always going to be some sort of solution built on top. And I think that Lightning is one of lots of those solutions. But again, trying to get people to spend this money, which goes up in value, is really hard and creates a giant rethink. But I don't think that, I know that the white paper literally says Bitcoin is a peer-to-peer cash system. Yeah, of course it is. But in order for money to be a money, it has to monetize, right? And Bitcoin is still monetizing. And we're seeing that play out.
I definitely completely disagree with that store of value narrative, but if I get into that, it's going to drag on for another half an hour or so. So we can't discuss it today, but I will say that
Bitcoin not a store of
the BTC guys have a very compelling narrative that I believe has attracted many people into that, and that's why so many people believe this, because the narrative has been compelling. Although I would say that it's flawed, in my opinion. How about
store of value bit?
Yeah. How about we end on one last question here from the audience. The guy here, Corrington, is asking, so how would you convert from BTC to Lightning with one of these apps, or the other way around? How can you go from Lightning back to BTC? What way? How would you do that?
A lot of them do it seamlessly. So with those apps in particular, like Wallet of Satoshi, for example, your Bitcoin that's on there can be sent as Lightning, or it can be sent as base chain, and you just have to change the QR code because it's done custodially. So they're
managing the funds for you. Of course, they can do that.
Exactly.
What about the ones where it's supposedly custodial? Oh, sorry, non-custodial, non-custodial, where you are in charge of your own money.
Yeah, with Phoenix, you are in the Lightning rails, and in order to get out of Lightning, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you do it within the Phoenix app, for example. I've not looked to do that. I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I haven't had the need to do that, but
yes,
if
because
you
you're one of the ones that just stay in there, right? That's what
well,
you said.
I know I have to use I still have to pay my taxes in pounds, for example, so I still have to sell Bitcoin to pay my taxes. So that's when I have to off ramp. But Kraken does that, and so does peer-to-peer exchange, and so does Hodl Hodl, so does Bisq. There's lots of solutions out there. These questions are like questions that are theoretical rather than driven by a use case, if that makes sense. It's like, how can I use my arm to spin plates? It's like no one is looking to like spin plates, rather than like, how can I use my arm to pick up my phone? If you see what I mean. Like, how can I convert from Bitcoin to Lightning? It's like, what are you doing in that conversion of Bitcoin to Lightning? Like,
Well,
are
if
you going from
someone wants to enjoy the store of value, you would have to go back to BTC, right? Off Lightning on the main chain, and you want to like have it on a thing where you've got private keys,
yeah,
like a ledger.
I mean, yeah. What's to stop you sending from Phoenix to Wallet of Satoshi to your private keys to your cold storage, or from Phoenix to Moon or to Blue, because Blue Wallet does that as well. Blue Wallet have a really easy button, which is like refill with external wallet, and that's when you're refilling with a base chain to Lightning. So they're actually opening up that bar tab from the base chain to the Lightning network there. It's literally a couple of dots at the top that says manage funds and then refill with external wallet.
Okay.
Sorry.
Whoop.
So you tap that button that says manage funds and it's refill with external wallet.
Right. All right. Well, I think there is a lot more to say, as I mentioned, but I know you have to go.
Yeah.
So let's just wrap it up. And I appreciate that you've been generous with your time today. So thanks for coming on. And yeah, maybe we can do it again sometime, or who knows? I reckon I'm gonna do some flying around this year, so might see you at a Bitcoin conference like the one in Miami. I think I'm gonna go to that one. So
yes. Oh, sick. Yeah, that one was very cool. I don't know if I'll have the money to get there this year. Depends how Bitcoin's doing.
Yeah.
But,
oh well, it appears that the bull market has returned, so maybe you'll get lucky.
Fingers crossed there. Yeah, thank you very much for having me on, mate. It's very kind of you to set up your wonderful studio to receive me. And yeah, I mean, I'm just a dude who's really passionate about Bitcoin. You don't have to take my words as gospel. And of course, as I've said a few times, the Lightning network is not catering to billions of people right now. It's catering to a very small minority, and it's doing that pretty well. So yeah, thanks again. And yeah, if your audience enjoyed this, then maybe make the decision to have me on again. But if not, then it's all good. Maybe catch you in Miami.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Well, thanks for that. Let's end the stream.